David Charter is the US assistant editor for The Times in Washington for us. Hello, David.
Good afternoon, Darryl from Washington, D.C.
Good afternoon, sir. Why is Donald Trump demanding his government pay him $230 million?
This actually is a claim that goes back to 2023, which is still outstanding. Trump has made two claims when he was out of office for basically what he claims was harassment by the Department of Justice. So the first one was the FBI investigation into alleged Russia collusion, dating back to the first election in 2016, of course. The second claim he made in 2024, again before he was elected, was for damages over the raid on Mar-a Lago. That was part of the documents probe, that he was hoarding secret documents. And they did, in fact, find secret documents at Mar-a-Lago, but Trump was very upset that they rummaged through Melania's wardrobe and other places at Mar-a-Lago whilst looking for said documents. So it turns out that he has not withdrawn these two claims. Far from it. In fact, he's still pursuing them, and he has acknowledged that it would be quote, awfully strange if he was the president who signed off the damages that were awarded by now his own Department of Justice to compensate him, but he would have the final say on the matter. And this actually was brought to light in the American media, and Trump admitted yesterday that he still felt wronged and owed money.
Yeah.
Shall we by his own Department of Justice, aka the taxpayer.
I'll tell you what, David. Let's hear from him, because here's what Trump had to say on this matter yesterday.
With the country, it's interesting because I'm the one that makes a decision, right? And that decision would have to go across my desk, and it's awfully strange to make a decision where I'm paying myself. In other words, did you ever have one of those cases where you have to decide how much you're paying yourself in damages? But I was damaged very greatly, and any money that I would get, I would give to charity.
Donald Trump speaking yesterday. The charity bit aside, there is nothing about this second Trump term, David, surely, that makes us believe that he wouldn't.
No, and it was interesting, I think, that there was no suggestion from Trump that this would actually be a raid on the taxpayer at a time when he's got his Department of Government Efficiency to find a lot of savings in the government to save the taxpayer money, which has resulted in lots of jobs being cut. At the same time, he's still pursuing hundreds of millions of dollars in compensation for his hurt feelings. I don't know how that will go down with his base, even though he says he would give it to tax. If
charity,
taxpayer money was charity, sorry. Even if taxpayer money were, was involved, I don't think that would go down very well with the MAGA base somehow. Though I haven't seen a lot of reaction to this at the moment, because, to be honest, as you know, Darryl, there's just a blizzard of different stories that come out from the White House. This was in the New York Times, which is not widely read by Trump's base. So I don't know if it's percolated yet that he could be getting this reward that he would have to sign off himself.
Do you think it's the sort of thing that they would forgive, given their adoration for him?
Yeah, they are very forgiving. It's not the worst thing that Trump's been accused of, or actually done, if he does carry it out. And so there seems to be an awful lot of excuses made for Trump by his most devoted supporters. So yeah, I think they probably would forgive him. I'm not aware of any charity that Trump has personally ever donated to. So, but there is this small matter of the new ballroom that he wants to build at the White House, which he says he will pay for from donations. So maybe it's for the great big ballroom that he's going to have built at the White House.
Okay, we'll come back to that in a moment. In fact, actually, let's get there now, because because it is relevant, isn't it? And he's been very heavily criticised, hasn't he, for his decision to demolish part of the east wing of the White House to build this ballroom. Let's hear from him again, defending that construction project.
I said, if I do this again, I'm going to get a ballroom built, and we're putting up our own money. With the government is paying for nothing. You probably hear the beautiful sound of construction to the back. You hear that sound? Oh, that's music to my ears. I love that sound. Other people don't like it. I love it, Josh. I think when I hear that sound, it reminds me of money.
It's funny, isn't it, this really? Because on the one hand, you could look at this as a sort of vanity project of an egotist who, is also into construction at the White House. But then also, do we not have these, Camp David, for example, Chequers here in the United Kingdom, the grace and favour pads and houses of Downing Street itself, every government has buildings that have been at one time the Vatican, which we can talk about the idea that Paul drove on the idea of the building of the Vatican, and now we have this wonderful, beautiful construct that I go to as regularly as I can. Several times I've been to the Vatican because somebody somewhere with an ego at one point decided to drive the idea through.
That's absolutely right. And the argument the White House has been making is that successive presidents have, of course, renovated and expanded the White House. We have the Truman balcony on the back of the White House, which is the second floor addition that was made by President Harry Truman, the immediate post-war president. And of course, the East Wing, which is now partly being demolished to make way from this, was itself built back at the turn of the century in 1902. Construction started on that. So it's not unusual for presidents to modify the White House. I think the reason that this has got a lot more attention just now is that the photographs that are appearing, and I walked past the general area yesterday actually, and there's a whole clutch of photographers on the pavement by the Treasury building overlooking the White House lawn and the back of the East Wing, which is being torn down by these mechanical diggers, and they're really quite stunning photos. And of course, if you're not a fan of Trump, it's pretty easy to look at the symbolism of Trump tearing down the White House physically with this construction work, because quite a lot of it's gone. I should say that the East Wing is traditionally where the First Lady has her offices, and Melania Trump seems to be mainly based in the main house. That's not being touched, we should say. This is a wing of the White House, and the images have really been doing the rounds on social media, more so than the designs that were released last week of the actual enormous ballroom that's planned to replace it.
Yeah. Okay. It was Peter, wasn't it? I was trying to refer to with regards to the Vatican, not Paul. Ironically, Peter would be furious that I'd accidentally mistaken him for Paul. Also, it was Julius, wasn't it, who commissioned Michelangelo to paint the Sistine Chapel and destroyed Michelangelo's life really in doing it. These characters throughout history, David, Donald Trump quite clearly keen to be one of them.
Well, there are buildings around the country, and in fact around the world, with the name Trump on top of them, and that's what he likes doing. Obviously, the Trump Tower overlooking Central Park, where he's his initial New York building, where he still has a huge apartment, a three-floor apartment, and that is his signature move. Even when he's only associated or has a part interest in the building, he insists on having that five-letter word in enormous letters put on top of it. That's the mark of Trump the Builder. Yeah.
What relationship do the West Wing and the East Wing have at the moment? That's fascinating, isn't it? In administrations, how the First Lady's team and the President's team interact.
Yeah, I mean, actually, the First Lady's team is pretty small. And can be concentrated in just a few offices on the east side. There's still a bit of the East Wing left, of course. The West Wing is much bigger. That's where the Oval Office is.
Are they at loggerheads, though? I mean, maybe I've watched too much West Wing, but it always feels to me like they're at loggerheads a bit. Other issues?
I wouldn't say they were so much at loggerheads as really doing their own thing because, Melania Trump has started this dialogue with President Putin about trying to get the Ukrainian children that have been kidnapped by Russia returned to Ukraine. And that initiative, in some ways, almost took Trump by surprise, I think, initially. He's now, of course, he supports it, but it was an initiative of a First Lady's office. Just shows you this, that they think of their own projects normally for the First Lady, that was a very political one involved in geopolitics. Normally, it's some charity to do with improving the lives of Americans, especially American children.
Okay, interesting. Just briefly then, there's growing pressure from Congress in Washington, David, to make Prince Andrew testify as part of an investigation into the Jeffrey Epstein activities and their investigations. The Oversight Committee had released some documents, some information on the Epstein case. There's been flight logs that have shown that Andrew travelled 4 times on the late paedophile's private plane. Of course, he denies any allegations against him, Prince Andrew, but how likely is the idea of him getting on another plane and heading to testify in front of Congress?
Well, in a word, unlikely, but I do think it's interesting that members of Congress on both sides have said that they would love to hear from Prince Andrew. They've basically been following the news in the UK, in fact generating it, because a lot of the final straws in this that broke the camel's back in this case came from the Oversight Committee of the House of Representatives. As you say, the flight logs, the suggestion of massages provided for an individual named only in the documents as Andrew, directly perhaps or indirectly by Jeffrey Epstein. So there was some pretty more damaging information, I suppose, coming out as a result of this committee.
Yeah.
I should say at the moment, Dowell, it's not sitting because we've got a government shutdown, so we don't know if they are going to go through with their invitation to Prince Andrew to provide them with any testimony. But it is interesting that members on both sides have said he should talk and tell them what he knows about Epstein.
Okay. David, thank you for being with us